For anybody who's listening or watching this, I should say that I'm
Yep.
Ben Smith from the Goliath Foundation, and who are you?
I am Donna Jones, and I am
Dawna
from
Opp.
Soul Bloom Healing. Dawna Opp. Dawna Opp. Yes, Dawna Opp from Soul Bloom Healing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was looking at your website a little bit, and it's so
Yep.
fascinating what you do.
Thank
So
you.
our basically our relationship has was basically mostly built around fitness
Yes.
through the gym and the personal training studio and this and that. So we never, I don't think we ever really got into any deep and heavy I remember when you were
Oh,
painting the studio, we got into a couple conversations about
we
spirituality
did.
and religion and things like that. But
Yeah,
yeah, so we have had some of those conversations, but obviously we've both evolved a lot since those days. And
absolutely.
so I was looking at your website for what you do, and it's super fascinating because it's so aligned with what I do, and in the with the Goliath Foundation, with what I do is very aligned to a lot of the things that you practice with your spirituality, and yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that, or tell me about that?
Um, yeah, so I have a very sort of religious, if you look on my website, religious background. I've got 37 years actually in religion. And I had just sort of decided that it was a little bit too boxed for me. So I left about 8 years ago and decided to sort of, think outside of that box. But in the meantime, I was in a state of really trying to find myself and heal some past issues that I had, yada, yada. And so I looked into a bunch of different modalities. I looked at, Buddhism and all kinds of different things. And I'm an avid reader. I really, really enjoy reading. So I was just gorging myself on spiritual books and self-help books. And till one day I picked up a book called Shaman Healer Sage from Alberto Villaldo, and it had to do with shamanism. And I was fascinated. I just felt instantaneously like it was my connection to what it was that I was looking for in terms of spirituality. I mean, up until that point, I didn't have a really great relationship with, if you want to call it God, the universe, whatever it was. And in fact, at that point, I didn't even really realize that I was a spiritual person. I just realized that I was craving something other than what it was that I had been taught for the last 37 years, because I never really had an intimate relationship with a, source. And so I realized through this connection of shamanism how much I had been missing out on in terms of my connection to the earth. And there was a lot of healing that took place when I really connected to the elements and, just having a really good core relationship with the earth, going out for walks in nature and bike rides. And I mean, I've always appreciated those types of things, but never on the level of what it could bring and give to me in terms of healing. And so I'm a really big believer that a lot of times when we're out of balance within our lives, quite often it's because we are out of balance with what nature has to give to us, because we as humans operate on the same um, principles as nature does. And so we're one and the same. And so when things are out of kilter in our own life, quite often it's because we're out of connection with being grounded in those elements in earth as well too. So I went through the course. I took the course. It was a 6 month, pretty hardcore training course. And what was really fascinating and great about the shamanic course was that, unlike other modalities, I wasn't just learning a healing technique or modality. I was actually learning to heal myself, which was part of the process and part of the journey. So I came to the table knowing full well that if this was something I was going to pursue, that there was going to be a lot of shedding that I would have to do in order to move forward and help stand, as a sacred witness to other people, letting go of their past and issues as well too. So it was a huge wake-up call for myself because the work was intense. I mean, there were times I just wanted to throw the towel in. It was so incredibly relieving, but very, very difficult process to go through because you're just eliminating years and years of programming and doing and undoing all of that. And you're fearful because you're not really 100% sure what you're going to find at the very end of it, right? You're really in a position of rediscovering yourself and who you are. But I can honestly attest to the fact that the healing that's occurred within myself is really probably one of the most epic parts of being a healer for other people, is being able to stand witness and say, I know what the process is all about because I've done the same myself. So yeah. So, when 2020 came along was when I really was pushed to figure out what it was that I wanted to do based on what I was seeing out there in the world. I saw a lot of fear. I felt the need to be more compassionate. I was working in the customer service industry. And I could see the fear on people's faces, and it really affected me deeply. I've always been very in tune with people and compassionate and understanding, but I felt like I wanted to do more than what I had been doing. So I figured that this was an avenue and a path that I wanted to take, which was to be of service to humanity and helping them be able to move forward and having any type of happiness and success in their lives by letting go of whatever it was that they've been carrying with them for years. So that's why I've decided to do what I'm doing. And I love it. Like every day I'm just amazed at the people whose lives I've touched and how grateful I am to be able to stand witness to these people having their aha moments and really seeing the effects of how that works for them in their lives moving forward. So I'm incredibly grateful.
Man, I'm so fascinated and so interested in hearing what you're saying because, again, I went through that kind of a similar type of process myself, and so that's kind of where what I do has come out of. So to me, it's so interesting, and again, it's like that so many people are struggling to find what you found.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the biggest challenge for people in terms of moving past all the garbage that kind of holds them back?
Well, I think our egos really play a vital part in the reason why we don't end up healing in the end, because the ego is really based in familiar emotions. And that is a scary thing. When we decide that we need to make necessary changes, the first thing the ego wants to do is throw something into our line of thinking that bases itself in a pattern that's familiar to us. So we end up making the same choices and the same decisions because that's all we know. And to be able to be presented with another aspect of doing things through a process of healing is very unnerving for the ego, because it's unfamiliar. And so, we're creatures of habit, and we don't understand sometimes that we are our own worst enemies when it comes to the reasons why we're unable to move forward in our lives. And there's also a lot of energetics, like this is energy medicine. So, when we face traumas in our lives, if we're not dealing with those traumas on an energetic level, like releasing them and letting them go, we end up storing them. And when we're storing them, we know that energy never dies. It merely transforms into something different. And if we don't release that over time, we can see the consistent repetitive behavioral patterns that we tend to create in our own lives. And then also too, if that energy again doesn't have an opportunity to be released through, say, energy medicine, then those that energetics ends up turning into, at the very end, disease, which could end up potentially killing us. And the disease is the way of the body signaling to us that, hey, you know what, it's time for you to start paying attention, that there's something a lot deeper, on a deeper level, that's going on here. And that's kind of how my journey started, about 8, 9 years ago. It was, I didn't have a disease, but I was very, very sick. And I noticed that when my mind started to get better, that my pain started to go away. And I was like, what is this correlation, ship between the two? And I started to put two and two together, that there's a lot of things that I was holding on to that were causing all of these symptoms to manifest. And, so that's why I'm, in a position of wanting to really walk the journey with other people, to show them that, even though it's a difficult process to go through, the benefits that you reap in the end by choosing to, it's like exercise. When you make a decision to have a healthier life, you don't just start going to the gym and expect results within a week. It takes time, and it takes consistency on your part before you start to reap the benefits. And it's the same way when you're doing the self-healing. Any little tiny bit of light at the end of that tunnel is enough for most of us to continue to walk towards that light, so that we can, reap the benefits even more so.
Hmm. So I actually have a couple questions for you, because I'm always kind of dealing with this with people that I work with, whatever. But do you think it's, and again, this is a legitimate question, but do you think it's of real value to go back and investigate like all those things that cause that pain? Or do you think it's, because I'm a believer, again, through my own experience, that like kind of stay focused on where you're going and don't worry quite so much on the past until you're strong enough to deal with it. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Oh, I definitely agree. And that's one thing, that we don't really get caught up in the stories that come with the pain that's being released. There's no sense, it's just a story. That's all it is. Everything that we've experienced in life is basically just a story. It's not who we really truly are. But society has really made it very clear to us over the years that with the labels that they give us, they entitle us to feeling a certain way. You're a victim, or you have this label, or you have that label. Whereas when I work, I really am very adamant that you don't get caught up in the story. And it's hard not to, because when you're releasing the energetics, you are going to get some memory. But what we're asking you is to not put your thought into the memory, to just release it and let it go, because that's all it is. It's just energy that's coming up, wanting to be released and healed. It's not asking you to focus and stay within that story and think about the past. Not at all. We're just simply releasing it. And sometimes, through the release of those stories, you have a tendency to have these aha moments, right? Where you're like, oh my goodness, I get now why I do this, because of this. And that's good enough. It's good enough for you to have a look at that, so that you can create new patterns based on what you recognize as the old patterns. But I definitely agree with you. This is not a process of bringing up the past so that you can dissect every little aspect of it and figure stuff out. You're just simply bringing it up for healing and letting it go.
Mm. Yeah, honestly, I love that. I love that because I think so many people, like you say, they sit in the story and it's just like, yeah, but you sat in that story for so long. What has it gotten you? Let's move forward, right? So it's like,
Absolutely.
I love that. I actually, like I say, when I was reading about a little bit of what you do, I think it's beautiful and it's got a long
It
history.
is really beautiful.
Yeah, it's got a
Yeah,
long
it does.
history of mostly
Yeah.
stuff.
And I mean, depending on the geographical area, I mean, shamanism really is just another word for medicine man and woman. And I mean, obviously I practice more modern because I don't come from, an actual bloodline of shamans. But, I think what the idea is to teach to be able to teach this modality to people so that we can get it out into the world as an alternative solution to helping people heal at a much faster rate than what technically modern medicine can. And modern medicine, don't get me wrong, has its place and has its benefits. But, you know, with everything that's gone on in the last 2 years, I think that there's a real need for people to heal at a much faster rate than what, you know, say sitting down and talking to a counselor or a psychiatrist or a psychologist. It's just talking. It's not really letting go of the energetics. Does it work? Of course it does, but it takes a lot longer to come to a conclusion or to come to a solution of why you're there in the first place than say it does if you choose to really pay attention to what we're giving you as far as the shamanism is concerned, like the homework that you have to do afterwards. So, and it resonates with some people, and obviously it's a modality that doesn't always resonate with everybody. But I mean, the results from it are absolutely they're amazing. They really are.
Well, again, just from the way I teach and my own experiences, I can only imagine that it would be like magical for people that are ready for it, right? But I think that's the thing with
Yep.
all of it. You got to kind of be ready for it, eh?
Yep.
Agree?
You do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I think
absolutely.
that's the problem with a lot of people, or that's the thing with a lot of people, whether it's diet, exercise, mental wellness, whatever. It's like if you're not ready, you're not going to hear it. You're not going to be ready to
No.
accept it, right? But when you're ready, I think what you do is like magical. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I agree. Yeah. And it's a holistic approach to healing as well, too, right? That, and again, it's not a matter of, you know, trying to talk to people about, quite often we just don't even, we really are very adamant about not getting involved in the story of why a person's there. You know, we don't really need to know any of your past, even the issues that you're suffering with now, you know, through a series of questions and techniques. We're just more concerned about finding the location through your chakras that energy has managed to manifest and get stuck, and then releasing it. And that's about it. And then we just sort of stand back and allow the whole process to unfold for you as well too. So yeah, it is really beautiful. I mean, that's how they used to do it. You know, they had so many techniques and ways of helping people that they didn't have modern medicine to fall back on. So they were doing something right.
Well, I got to say, I'm super, as I have already said, but I'm really excited to hopefully do some work with you because it's so aligned with my own thinking. But yeah, it's pretty crazy that we still live in a world, or we're running into people, clients or whatever, that just are so entrenched in their story. It's just like, just just why would you be in this story that's causing you so much pain? Why do you kind of like stay focused on where you want to go, which is happiness?
Yeah, and you know what? That's right. And it's about high time that we become the storyteller.
I
You know,
know.
that is what it's all about. I want to tell the story. I don't want the story to tell, you know, to do the talking for me. I want to be the one that writes the story. And like I said, at the end of the day, none of those things that have happened to you are who you are. You know, like a lot of people say, oh, my past made me who I am. Well, maybe to a certain degree, it has shaped and molded you into the person you are now, but you're so much more than your story. That's what you're trying to drive home to people, is that story is such a small aspect of who you are. You know, that's a question I asked myself so many times over these last years. Who am I? You know, what's unfolding in me? We're creators. That's what we're meant to do, to wake up every single day and ask, you know, source, what is unfolding in me? What am I creating today that's different than what I created yesterday? And one small change in what we do today is significant in how that shapes everything we do from that moment forward. So it's so important to be in this moment right now as the only moment that we have in this lifetime. You know, and most people are not in this moment. They're in the moment of the past, or all they're doing is working to think about the future, and they're missing the opportunity of what the moment right now has to offer us.
That is so awesome. It's so close to what I think. God, I'm so glad we're talking. God, I love you. This is awesome. Um,
I love you too. That's awesome.
uh,
Yeah.
it's just it's so fascinating. Like, to me, I get up every day and I do my work with people and with youth and just people in general, just trying to, the Goliath Foundation is all about happiness and releasing that pain so you can just move forward, right? So like you, but it's like it's so interesting in the world, just walking around grocery stores, wherever, where people are just so like, well, here's my pain. Let me tell you about it. And let me tell you about why it's making me super unhappy and why it's going to continue to make me unhappy. This is my pain. This is my pain. And it's just like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
I
And
know, and because it's like a program, right? And that's kind of what labels and diagnoses are like as well too. The minute we hear things like that, they become a program that becomes downloaded into our psyche. And then all of a sudden we realize that we're manifesting the very thing that we were told that we have. It's just amazing how that the mind works on manifesting whatever it is that we put in front of us. And yet at the same on the same line of thought, we can actually continue to manifest happiness, health, prosperity, compassion, all those other things if we just choose to use that avenue to go down. But most of us don't know how to do that because we're so stuck in the stories that we have been telling ourselves for years and years and years, because somehow we feel justified telling that story. Whether it's we get empathy or sympathy from people, or we're validated as to why we are the way we are because we've been given this label to live by. There's so many different reasons. And what we don't realize is half the time we are the very reason why we don't experience any type of happiness or prosperity or any of those things that anybody would want in their lives. We're the ones that hold ourselves back. And the sad part is that society would have us believe that the majority of the reasons why we suffer from illness or disease is maybe the outside sources, but it's not. It's all internal. We internalize things, and that's the way the body needs to get to the bottom of it. Is if you're not going to listen to me, if you're not going to pay attention, wham, there you go. I'm going to give you something that's going to wake you the heck up. So yeah.
So
So I mean, if you're not releasing, the energetics of whatever situation you're coming across, then whether it's the past or now or whatever it is, then then you're going to have a really big wake up call. And hopefully by that time, it's not going to be so debilitating that the quality of life for you isn't, going to be, at the top. So yeah, pretty serious.
What do you think is the first steps that people can do to start moving towards this line of thinking without actually, before they, let's say somebody is like, well, oh yeah, I really love what Dawna was saying, and I would love to look in that, but I want like, what could they do right now to start moving towards that a little bit?
I think that just making a clear, concise decision that they've gotten to a point in their lives where, they want to be able to release whatever it is that they're carrying, whatever emotions, just taking a really good, serious look at the patterns that they've created in the life that they've had over the years. I mean, I'm in this healing modality, and myself, I'm still having these aha moments in my own life, with my relationships, and realizing that there are patterns that I've created. Now, how do I go about changing those patterns so that they don't happen again? And I think just reaffirming in my mind that I want to make those changes is the step in the right direction. And then of course it's being able to find somebody that is a really good fit for you, that makes you feel comfortable. Not everybody wants to tell their story, and not everybody needs to tell their story in order to have healing. That's another thing. We think that we need to tell, the person that we're talking to every last little detail in case we might miss something, and therefore we're not going to get healed. None of that matters.
Mhm.
None of it matters. So if you're not wanting to sit across from me and talk to me about your past, good on you. I don't need to hear it. Because it's not going to make any difference as far as I'm concerned in what it is that's going to be released. However, if this is something that you're looking for to help you heal those aspects of yourself that are, causing you issues, then it needs a commitment from you to understand that it is a process, and there's going to be a bit of discomfort that comes along with it in terms of old emotions coming up. But basically you're just looking at releasing the emotions and not focusing on where those emotions come from and getting involved in, the story of how they all happened.
Mm. Yeah, no, I love that. And again, that's basically exactly what I try to do with people as well. But
Yeah.
so that's so cool. So you talked about your own journey and your own things that you've come with. Do you have practices that you do on a like what are your kind of daily or ritualistic practices?
Well, meditation is huge for me. I wouldn't be where I am right now if I didn't use meditation. And anybody who is in the process of wanting to heal, I can't even begin to tell you that meditation, and that can be prayer as well too. It's however you look at it. Prayer is definitely a massive aspect of meditation in a different sort of way. So I really take time for myself every single morning, and I do again every single night. And I do meditation, and I just go into a state of stillness. Sometimes I'll listen to things that really sort of help me release certain things. And other times I just really go in with, I know Carolyn Mace, a really great healer and speaker, talks about dropping the pebble in the well. And that's kind of what I do. I ask a question to the universe, and then I drop my pebble in the well, and I sit back and I wait and for the answer to come to me. And I'm always surprised at how fast that happens. So definitely my mental health is really, really important. And I make sure every day that I check in with myself and do those practices so that I know, when I'm working with somebody, that I'm coming with, a clear mind. Because I don't want to be projecting anything that I have onto anybody else's, healing journey. So
Mm.
that's number one for me. And and you know what? I've really gotten into a practice of taking care of, like, making sure that all aspects of my life are clean, drinking and, eating and exercising and all those kinds of things. I really, really pay close attention because health is really important to me. I don't think you can do anything in life without having good health. So that's number one for me, is to just really make sure that I'm eating clean, drinking lots of water, and exercising daily, going out into nature and being with nature and really grounding myself, are really important practices to me as well too.
Nice. Yeah, those are some practices. This very similar to myself. But here's another question I have for you, because I'm always telling people, like, get up a little bit early, chill out, relax, meditate. I don't really necessarily use the term meditation all the time, because there's just so much kind of thoughts around that. But get up early, chill out, right? It's all the same thing. But so many people struggle with that. Why do you think that is, when like you, me, everybody you talk to who's kind of come to a certain level of enlightenment for their own joy and their happiness says the same thing, but yet so many people struggle to do it. Why do you think that is?
Because I think that there's a stigma around meditation, because I think a lot of people think that if you're going into meditation that you have to have a clear and quiet mind, but they don't realize it's no different than, going to the gym and building muscle. It takes time, and the idea is not to completely clear your mind. It's impossible to completely clear your mind. It's really about going in and taking time for yourself, whether that's 5 minutes of stillness or 30 minutes of stillness. And I think that that's what it is it's, it's paying attention to your thoughts and then releasing them, not focusing, like if the thought comes into your head, oh, what are we going to have for dinner? You recognize the thought. Oh, there we go. I just wanted to know what I'm having for dinner. Boom, release, goodbye. And it takes some time, but when you recognize the benefits that come from going in and just really focusing on you, taking some time for you. And meditation doesn't necessarily mean that you're sitting cross-legged on a pillow on the floor. It could be you're taking time for yourself by going into nature. Maybe it's putting on some beautiful, soft, soothing music and paying attention to the beauty around you and how it personally affects you, rather than saying going with a friend and talking about what's going on in the world. Like that's really what it's about, is finding that thing or that niche that fits your need to just really pay attention to what's important to you, to get into touch with you. We're so distracted these days by television and radio and, all the things that are going on in our life that, it's no wonder that our minds are so busy. So whatever that is for you in terms of getting rid of the distractions and really paying attention to your needs and your wants, it doesn't have to mean that you're, sitting still for 30 minutes. It's just doing whatever it is that you need to do to get into touch with yourself.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think that's one of the big things that people think it has to be like a certain way, when for me a lot of the time, again, it's my ritual too, but I feel like as long as I feel nice and calm and relaxed and at ease, and I feel good about happy and joyful to be in the world, and if it's music, if it's watching the ocean, if it's just thinking about some nice memory, to me it's all the same. As long as I feel good and grounded and at peace.
Yeah.
If it's mindlessness, then that's cool. If it's pleasant thoughts, then that's cool too. But as long as it's like that's kind of calm, happy state, then it really doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It really is, right?
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
for
I think it's really about becoming an empty vessel.
you.
I think our vessels are so full of things that aren't necessary, that don't add anything to our lives, that I think what's really important is in what the idea of, for the lack of a better word, meditating is all about, is really getting rid of all the extra, it's like cleaning out the closet, really, is, in a sense, there's so much extra baggage that we have in there that's not necessary, that sometimes it's just a matter of going through everything and going, why am I still holding on to this or carrying this? Woof, get rid of it. So that at the end, you are an empty vessel to fill back up with all the things that are really truly, necessary and important for you to have a happy and successful, future. And so that's why I think it's really important to just do that list of get rid of that. And that's the problem, is that we're living in a world that distracts us so much that we quite often are filling ourselves up with more things than what we need, because we need to get rid of so much stuff already. And then we just tend to forget because it just all gets buried. And so it's just a process of elimination. And that's why I think it is really important to have that time. Like I'm used to getting up super early in the morning and having a coffee. And, I'm a reader. So I like to take time to read a book and really have my thoughts, reflected in what it is that I'm reading, and take some time before I go do my meditation. So I really I really take time each day, twice in the day, at nighttime and in the morning, to really focus in on me and releasing anything that I feel like I might have, sort of, trapped inside me, letting it go.
Hmm. Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. Um, Hey, on a completely different topic, clearly I'm not the best interviewer, but remember this?
Yeah, the
It's so,
calendar girls.
it's so funny that we were doing a little bit of cleaning and this thing came up, and then next thing you know, I'm talking to you. This
Yeah,
is this is so fun, eh? For
that
everybody
was such a great, oh my gosh,
kind of
like that
looking.
was like yep, that
There
was an
she is,
amazing, there I am.
calendar girl. Yeah.
I sure do love me a challenge, that's for sure. I couldn't imagine living life without having a challenge.
Oh my
No doubt
God.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You and I have done a lot of fitness together.
we have.
Hey, I gotta, so here's a dumb question that's unrelated to anything, but it's a dumb question. Do you
Ask away.
were you there that time when I was teaching that boxing class and I jumped up on the Bosu? I
And
jumped
you
up,
jumped what?
jumped up on the Bosu ball. Ah! I'm pretty sure you weren't there.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
think I would remember something like that.
well, that was at Sunshine Fitness, and you know the Bosu balls or whatever. And I was like,
Yes.
I mean, we were fairly new to the gym then, so I was still young enough to think I could do anything. And in
Yeah.
front of the whole class, I thought you were there, but a whole boxing class, I was like, don't try this at home, everybody. And I went to jump up on the Bosu ball, thinking I was just going to be like all balanced, like check this out, and then, having never done it before in my life, and I like, jumped up and I just pied out, and I thought I broke my back in front of my class. Oh, oh my god! And again, I thought you were there, but everyone was just like.
That is so funny. Oh,
uh,
those are the good times I remember. Like that is definitely one part of my life that really came at a time when I really needed it, and saved me, is going to that gym and just having a really close connection with both you and Shar, and of course, because it was a small gym, just the people I mean, those girls are my favorite girls still to this day.
Yeah, that was such a that it was such a great group of people because it was like you say, it was a pretty tight group, right?
It was, yeah,
Yeah, super
absolutely.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see keep running into kids that came out of there now, and now they're like they're grown ups, right? So it was a while ago now. It's wild, right?
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much time goes by, and how significantly lives can change in such a short period of time. Or and like, I mean, if you'd asked me years ago that this is where I'd be like, oh my god, are you kidding me? There's no way. I'm a designer, I'm not a healer. But that just goes to show you how fantastic it is to lead a life where you're really open-minded. I mean, if I look back on my life in at least the last 30 years, I have really changed careers like drastically over that time. But one of the greatest things that I've loved, and I had forgotten for quite a few years, was how excited I was when I lost one thing, because it always opened up a door to something else that I would have never in a million years have thought that would be possible.
Mhm.
So, and look, here I am as well
Mhm.
too. So I'm
So,
I'm just I'm yeah, I'm just so excited to see what the future brings. And I'm really feel honored and blessed to be on this earth at this time right now as well too, because I think we're living in a pivotal time in history with all of I know that the pandemic and all of that kind of stuff has brought a lot of people, a lot of issues up, and some fear and all that, but it's also a pivotal time in our history to be a part of. And I guess it just really depends on how you look at it. For me, myself, I just have looked at it as an opportunity to rise to the challenge of being a part of the reason why we're going to move forward into a new world. And I
yeah.
really firmly believe that there are a lot of avenues of healing that weren't available to people such as myself online that came. And I think that there are a lot of healers who are teachers who recognize we got to start teaching people, like we got to start getting people out there to help us help humanity on a global scale, because at the end of the day, they're going to need it. They're going to need a soft place to land. And so that is part of the reason why I'm so excited about doing what it is that I'm doing, because I do really recognize that I want to be a part of the solution.
Mm. Yeah, again, you and I are just so aligned because I feel the same way. It's just like if you're not drowned in your own, like if you can kind of take a breath for air and like look around,
Yeah.
it's like we're really coming to a major awakening in the world where
Oh
like
boy.
yeah,
And what's really great about that is there are a lot of people who think that awakening has something to do with what's outside. But what's really important for people to understand that the awakening, it cannot happen by something outside. It happens inside. And
Oh,
I know I sound like a broken record, but heal yourself, heal the world. And that is the absolute God honest truth, that healing cannot happen on a global scale until each and every one of us recognizes that we alone are the part of the solution by healing ourselves first.
mm,
That is the only thing that is important, and that is the only thing that matters moving forward. That if each and every one of us does the work, how can this earth not be a better place? How can it not?
mhm,
So that really struck home for me really big in 2020. And moving forward, I just knew, oh, Dawna, you got some work to do, girl. And that is what propelled me. And, I've watched one of two things happen. I've watched either people around me flourish and do their own healing, or I've watched people fall away because I became the mirror.
mm.
And so, and that's okay. That's all a part of the process as well too. But I know for myself that I want to be a part of the solution. So there, in my mind, I had no choice but to, I mean, I had a choice, but in my own way of thinking, I didn't. I really needed to embark on this journey and do this if I was going to be of service to other people. So that was really important to me.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, it is so interesting. I just did a video about that, but how like it's like so many people they're looking at like the crazy world we live in. It's just like you can change the world. You can be a huge part of changing the world, but you got to change it for yourself first, right? Like it all begins with
Absolutely.
yourself. And if you can just find that peace and the inner peace and that connection with yourself and everything around you and everyone around you, you're changing the world. And then you're changing
Yeah.
that person who's changing the world, who's changing that person, and it just becomes it's this exponential growth of like creating this amazing world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. And you know what? You if you don't do things like that, you're missing out on an opportunity to know a part of yourself that you otherwise would never have known. Like I mean, I look back on the patterns that I had previously and think about who I am today compared to who I was back then. And I love who I have become because I see the positive aspects and the positive results that have come in my own life and the opportunities that have been extended to me. And I could not imagine ever. That's the other thing. I mean, is when you walk this path and your eyes are opened, there's no going back.
Mhm.
Like you can't unsee what you're seeing. Like it
True.
doesn't work that way. So you have to be really clear in your mind that you are fully ready and prepared to walk this path because the path is narrow and it's cramped. It's not broad and spacious. If it was, we would all be doing it. It requires a lot of work. But once that door has been opened, there's no closing that door. You have to walk through that door. So you really do have to make sure that you are fully prepared to just keep on going. And hopefully with the results that you're getting, that path will be a much easier path for you to walk. You'll want to walk that path.
Mm. Yeah, the way I kind of thought about it is like you say, it's hard in the beginning, just like using fitness as an analogy. It's hard
Yeah.
to kind of lose those first few pounds or to kind of get the exercise form and this and that, and then you hit sticking points and this and that. But eventually you get into a groove where it's your lifestyle. There's no going back. You can't live the way you used to live. You're in the groove. You're making progress. You know what has to be done, and you're in sync with it. And then it all just next thing you know, you're there, and it's like you couldn't imagine. You can't go back, right? And that's
No,
kind of
you
how I think
can't.
that's too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you're doing what you do, and I'm so glad we
Thank you.
connected. And I hope that we can do some work together. But where can people? How can people get a hold of you to?
So my website is the best way, and I work remotely. I find that working remotely, with what's gone on these last 2 years, I don't have a space, I don't have a space to work physically with people. So I do everything, either, I do things over Zoom, and I do it remotely. And I actually find that the results are a lot better. People tend to be a lot more comfortable being in their own space and their own surroundings when these kinds of things are happening. So Yeah, so they can reach out to me on my Soul Bloom Healing, www.soulbloomhealing.com, and there's a registration form depending on what it is that you're looking for. Typically, when we're starting, I do I mean, I have a list of all of my, healing techniques. So you can have a look, or and book a half-hour free consultation. That's so that we can sit down and have a chat and make sure that we're, a good fit for each other, and you're comfortable working with me, and then from there move forward, to deciding what it is, what technique we'll be using.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm gonna continue to look into it and see what you do.
Yeah, please do.
And I believe, because I'm working with people as well, obviously, kind of push people your way or guide people your way, because I just think what you do is amazing, because it feels so aligned, and I think what I do is amazing.
I think what you do is amazing. I don't think you I don't think you need my help, Ben. Ben loves some Ben. I don't think I can help you with that. Oh my God, that's funny. I think I'm amazing at what I do. That is hilarious. Oh my God, some things never ever change.
Yeah, well, you remember me in the gym. It's just like,
Oh
I'm the
God,
best ever at.
he looks good, but he's an airhead.
Oh man.
God. That's
Uh,
awesome. I love it. I just love it. Well, and hey, how can I actually get the link to this to the Zoom call that we just did, or the recording, I should say?
yeah, well, Willa will send that to you, and
Oh, Willa will too. Okay.
you can spread it through your platform and stuff like that. And we'll just
Okay.
make sure that people have
Awesome.
information. So, and as for me, I'm going to do what Willow normally does and say you can contact me at the Goliath Foundation .com or Goliath Foundation. You can email us at Goliath Foundation, the Goliath Foundation at gmail.com. Instagram, we're at Facebook and the Goliath Foundation, so you can find us at all those places. And pretty soon, this video will be downloaded, so this interview will be at all those places as well. And it has been such an honor and such a joy talking to you again, Dawna Opp.
Dawna Opp. Thank you so much, Ben Smith.
Trainer Ben Smith.
Trainer Ben Smith. Thank you so much, Ben. This means the world to me. I really, really have just enjoyed our time and catching up and just being able to talk about something that's really near and dear to my heart. So thank you, thank you, thank you for that. That was such a great interview.